Hi everyone. I just wanted to take a minute and sit down and do a 6 to 7 week pregnancy update. Unfortunately, things have been a little wild around here. We've had a rough couple of weeks and we've had a few complications, but all is well so far, thankfully. So it started around okay, so I am 7 weeks 1 day today, going by the date of my last period. So I'm 7-1 today. Complications started a little bit before I turned 6 weeks. And I have this tooth that I have had a partial root canal on, and I need the root canal finished. And my dentist kind of keeps doing other work instead of finishing that. And it has a temporary feeling. I have some issues out of it, but in general it's okay. Well, when I was almost 6 weeks, I started having some swelling and some pain. And whenever the tooth acts up, I can always feel it. I can always feel it coming on. Sometimes it will hurt a couple of days and then just kind of go away. That actually happened when I was pregnant with Lucas. I was actually about 10 weeks along, and my tooth started acting up. At that time, it was before I had the root canal, but I needed the root canal. And it started acting up, but thank God it stopped. Well, when it started this time, I thought, well, maybe, it's just kind of a blood flow thing. Once my blood flow kind of lines out, it will stop and we'll be okay. Well, it just kept getting worse. It kept hurting more. So bad I was having, it was spreading all up in, giving me a headache. I was swelling more. So I knew I had to call the dentist. I knew I would need to be treated with antibiotics. And I know that root canal needs finished. Now, I know some dentists will do first trimester work. Some will not until second trimester. I think it's just kind of a preference thing. But nothing I've read says it's unsafe to do work in the first trimester. So I called my dentist, explained what was going on. She called me back the next day and she said, we won't do any work until you're in the second trimester, but we will treat with antibiotics, which she called in. But she referred me to an endodontist, which is a root canal specialist, to have the root canal finished. And they made me an appointment for like 2 or 3 weeks out. So I thought, well, okay. Well, I really wanted to meet with my OB before the appointment, so I've been meaning to call and moving on out a few more weeks because I want to talk to my OB about what's been going on first and make sure everything's safe and get the go-ahead from her. So yesterday, the endodontist actually called me to confirm the appointment. And I told her the situation, and she said, oh, we won't do work on you until you're in the second trimester either. And I'm like, great. So if I have some major trouble with this tooth, I'm not going to have anybody to help me. And I said my biggest worry, I still have a temporary feeling. She's continually filled it in, but it really needs replaced with a permanent feeling. I'm afraid that feeling's going to fall out. And number 2, I'm afraid I'm going to have another abscess and it do the same thing it's been doing until the second trimester. And she said, well, if that happens, give us a call. We'll talk to the dentist. We can do emergent work. It's just typical that we wait until the second trimester. So I don't know, guys. They moved my appointment to August 9th. This dentist is over 2 hours away. I'm not really familiar with the area they're in. It's going to be so expensive right before vacation, but I would love to have it done before vacation. But I think I'm going to call my regular dentist and tell them, they won't see me either. And if I can wait till the second trimester, will you all just do it in your office with permission from my OB so I don't have to travel 2 hours by myself. I'm really antsy about dental work. I've had a lot of bad experiences in the past. I have a lot of issues. So it's really hard for me to go and have something done alone. Brandon has went with me, I think, for both of my root canals, or at least one of them, and I've actually had to take like Xanax type medication because they just make me so nervous. And obviously I can't have that this time, but I really feel like the root canal really needs to be done before I deliver the baby. I just don't feel like you can wait that long. I'm already having issues. So that's a goal of mine, to get the root canal finished, and hopefully it'll hold out until second trimester and I can have the dental work done then. So that was issue number 1 that we dealt with. It was probably like 5 weeks, 5 days, something like that, 6 days. I was almost 6 weeks. So that was the better part of last week. On Sunday morning, I was 6 weeks and 4 days, and I woke up, we were getting ready for church, and I was getting ready to get in the shower, and I discovered that I was spotting. And I've had cramps ever since I found out. Not really like intense cramps, but I feel like kind of typical cramping. But I was having the cramping, and then I started having some spotting. And you all know it was bright red, and anyone who's been pregnant or dealt with pregnancy, you know that just freaks you out. It just scares you. You know, it wasn't a whole lot. It wasn't anything major, but it did freak me out. I just started crying. I got Brandon to come in the bathroom and, you know, told him what was going on, and I just could not get my emotions under control. I said, we debated going to the emergency room, but I said, you know, if I am having a miscarriage, there's nothing they can do. We decided to just wait and call the doctor on Monday and go from there. So Sunday, I just could not get a grip on my emotions. I did stay home from church that morning and just took it easy and rested. And we just kind of waited it out. Then around 2 or 3 o'clock that day, I started getting a pain in behind my right knee, and it was just, it kind of felt like a pulled muscle, but it just made my knee to where I could not bend it and I could not extend it all the way out. It wasn't anything major, but as the day went along, it just kept getting worse. And by Monday, I couldn't hardly walk. It got so bad, I couldn't bend my knee, I couldn't extend my knee. I wasn't swollen, I was not red, I wasn't running a temperature or anything like that, but I couldn't walk. I mean, I could not bear weight on this leg. So Monday morning, I called my OB around 9:15 when they opened, and it actually took them until like 1:30 to call me back. So I was kind of a mess. I never had complications with Lucas. I don't think ever called my OB with a problem my whole pregnancy with him. And here I am. I haven't even had my first official appointment, and I've called multiple times. But I told them about the cramping and the spotting and the pain behind my knee. So when they called back, she said the cramping and spotting could be normal, just kind of monitor it and call back if it got worse, because I do have an appointment next week, or you know, if it got worse, to call back. And she said my doctor wanted me to go straight to the emergency room and have my knee checked out because they were worried about possible blood clots. I don't have any history of blood clots, anything like that, but I had a lot of the symptoms. This was about 1:30 in the day. Brandon was at work. He was working on a rig that was completely out of service. And I didn't want to scare him. I didn't want to freak him out anyway. So I asked Mom to keep Luke. And I said, I'm going to go to the ER. You know, don't call Dad. Don't call Brandon. I'm okay. Even though I really didn't want to go on my own. I did break down crying. I really didn't want to go on my own. But I didn't want Brandon to have to leave work when I knew he was in an area I couldn't get a hold of him anyway. So I was just going to go get checked out and handle everything. So I went to our local emergency room. That way I didn't have to drive an hour, hour and a half. I went to our local emergency room, got signed in, checked in, told them my OB had referred me. And they got me back into a room and everything. And my sister-in-law had actually called me while I was in the waiting room. And I told her what was going on and everything, and she said, you know, if you need anything, let me know. And I had messaged Brandon, but I knew he couldn't get it. I had messaged my best friend Tiffany, and then of course my family knew. So when I was back in my room, my best friend messaged and asked what room I was in and said she really wanted to come up. And I was so thankful because I didn't want to ask anybody for anything or for any help, but I really did not want to do all of that on my own. So it just meant a lot to me to have someone offer to come sit with me. And I mean, Mom actually wanted to go with me. She wanted to take Lucas and go with me. And I said, I don't want Lucas there. We're going to be there a while. I know, just, you know, I'll leave him here. I'll be okay. So she didn't go with me. But Tiffany came. And then not long later, my sister-in-law, Laura, showed up as well. So I was so thankful and I was so grateful. And I felt so much better. The doctor did come in. I did like a urine HCG, and that came back positive, of course. And they said, we want to do labs, and if your HCG is high enough, we will send you for an internal ultrasound to check on the baby, for the crimping and the spotting. And we want to ultrasound your leg as well to check for blood clots. So they did my labs, and I mean, they took a ton of blood, and they did my labs, sent those out, and I was just sitting there with Keith and Laura, and then Brandon calls. And at that point, I knew that Mom had called Dad. And for those of you that don't know, Dad and Brandon and Derek all work for the same company. But Mom had called Dad and told him, and he had drove to Brandon's job site and told him, and Brandon left the job site to come to me, which I was so thankful for. He has just been the best husband, and especially through all of this, and helping me pick up slack this week. But he called and he said, where are you at? And I said, I'm in the emergency room. And he said, that's what I heard. And I said, where are you? And he said, I'm walking in the hospital. So I told him what room and everything, and he came back, and we can only have 2 visitors. So Tiffany went on home, and not long after that, they came to take me to ultrasound. So he came at the perfect time. I was so grateful for that, because, you know, if the baby wasn't okay, or if the baby was okay, I really wanted that experience to be with him if at all possible. So I'm so glad he showed up. But they took me back to ultrasound. They did my leg first, and that was like the most uncomfortable ultrasound. They ultrasound like from the top of my thigh all the way down my leg. And then they did an internal ultrasound to look at the baby. And they found the gestational sac, and you could see like the fetal pole, but you couldn't see the baby. And she measured the sac, and by the date of my last period, I was 6 weeks 5 days. But I was measuring, the sac was measuring 5 weeks 6 days, which is probably too soon to see the baby, because I have a tilted uterus, and she said it is also elongated, so she could not get the wand like where the baby was embedded. So that's fun. But so we could see the sac and the pole and everything, but we couldn't see the baby. So that, it worried me, even though I know it could be borderline too soon. It still worried me. So she said, I want to do one more abdominal ultrasound since you've emptied your bladder. So she did, and she found the sac on my stomach. And I was really surprised, because I know that early you can't always see it, and obviously internal is better. But at that point, I was actually kind of looking at Brandon, because I was a little discouraged. I was a little worried. I didn't really want to look at the screen. It just scared me. And she says, oh, I think I see a flutter. And I'm like, what? And I look over, and I'm measuring 5 weeks 6 days, and you could see the sac, and you could not see any kind of baby image, anything like that. But every once in a while, this little white and black flutter would just pop up in the middle of the sac. So we saw the heartbeat. She said the doctor will not confirm that as a heartbeat, because it's way too early. It wasn't even consistent enough to scan. She tried to scan it to get a heart rate, but it would do it for, 3 or 4 times, and then it would kind of fade, because the wand would move, and then she would kind of go back. So that really made me feel a lot better, and I cannot believe that we could even see that on abdominal that early. But I was so thankful, because I felt like I would have just been really discouraged and just really sick otherwise, because even though I know it's early, you still want to see that and know that the baby's okay. But they did the scans, and we went back to our room and told Laura how everything had went, and then the doctor came in. My HCG blood draw came back and my numbers were over 27,000, which is right on target for around 6 weeks. My leg ultrasound did not show any blood clots. So that's good, but it's like, what else? What is hurting? What's the problem? And she said my white count was good, so no infection. I didn't have any kind of skin infection or anything that they could see. She said, sometimes just during pregnancy, your tendons and your joints kind of shift, and it's hot outside, and there's inflammation and that kind of thing. And she said, if it got worse, to come back to the ER. Otherwise, to talk to my OB at my appointment, which at that time was 10 days away. She said, but if you're just kind of the same or getting better, just talk to your OB about it. She said, but if you're still having this pain, 10 days out, press for another ultrasound, another scan. Something's going on if you're not feeling better. So I was glad to know it wasn't a blood clot, even though I guess it could be and just hasn't showed up on ultrasound yet. But we were there all in all like 5 hours. So they discharged me. We went home and picked up Lucas and told everybody how it went. We went and ate Mexican for dinner, and then I came home and went to bed. That was Monday night. Now Tuesday I woke up and I was like, okay, I'm hoping it, I can just feel it getting better. I've just kind of pulled something or moved something funny and didn't realize it. But Tuesday it was much worse. It was, I could not put weight on it. We had a movie date planned and I just could not go. I was like, can we move it out a couple days? Just so much pain. I could not bend it. I could not extend it. Getting out of bed was torture because I could not put weight on it. I cannot walk well on it. I finally found a way to kind of walk on the front ball of my foot. Well, so that was Tuesday. I got up yesterday, which was Wednesday, and I was 7 weeks yesterday. It was excruciating. I did not sleep the night before. I was up all night throbbing and just so painful. Could not get it under control. It was like the pain was spreading. And I have a cramp in my calf now where I was trying to walk previously, so I can't walk that way. I'm just having to bear the full weight, which is painful. But yesterday was so painful. I was in tears. I was in tears the night before. I was in tears yesterday. So, guys, I just really don't know what's going on. I'm just praying it goes away. I'm praying it's not like this for 9 months. I'm praying it's not something bad and I'm going to, lose my leg. That has seriously been a fear. So, I got up today and it is still very painful. It's still excruciating. But I feel like I have a little more flexibility. I did lay in a warm bath last night. Not a hot bath, but a warm bath to try to help it. And I really tried to stay off of it yesterday evening. And today we did go to the movies. But this evening we had some plans, but I canceled them and we stayed in so I can just kind of stay off of it and rest. Because I really, really need this better. I feel like I have a little more mobility today, like I can move it back and forth a little more, but I still can't bear the weight. I'm still just having a lot of pain, so I really don't know. I really don't know what is wrong. I don't feel like it's bad enough to go back to the ER at this point. It is the point, when is this going to get better? What is causing it? What is wrong? I want this to not be something that's going to hurt the baby or be long-term for me, hopefully. So, it's just kind of a waiting game. I have our first appointment a week from today on June 11th. It'll be an ultrasound, the dating ultrasound, and my first appointment with the doctor. So we definitely have a lot to talk about. I've already had several complications, several things that are worrying me. So hopefully this isn't indicative of the remainder of the pregnancy. Hopefully it'll ease up and be a little better. But we'll take what comes as long as the baby is healthy and I can take care of Luke. But hopefully I can get kind of back to my normal self so I can do what needs to be done around the house and everything. Brandon has just been amazing this week. He's always great, but he has worked out in 80, 90 degree weather, 12, 14 hours, and he has come home, and I've kind of tried to start dinner a couple of nights, but he's finished. He's, fed the dogs and done chores and fed Luke and put Luke down, and he never complains. He never complains, and I'm so demanding. I'm like, can you bring me this? Can you do this? I'm sorry, but can you help me do this? And, he always listens to me when I complain and cry. And, I know he has bad days, and he has really hard days. He has a really hard job, and, his job's really hard physically, and, staying at home's really hard mentally. And he always expresses, how thankful he is that I am a stay-at-home mom, and, just how I take care of Luke and the home and, everything else that needs to be done. And he always makes me feel appreciated and loved. But on these weeks when it's extra hard, he's really picked up the slack, and I'm so thankful for that. So I love you if you're watching this. Lucas and little baby, you all have the best daddy. And Derek's old enough to know that he has the best. But that is our kind of 5, 6, 7 week update. Next week is our first ultrasound, so hopefully we'll have some good news after that and a good baby doctor's appointment. And yeah, we'll go from there. Thank you.